Talkback question, are gay rights the same as civil rights? It's a controversy that's intensified with this brand new ad from the Respect for Marriage Coalition promoting same-sex marriage.
We'd want to be told we can't marry the person we love. That's why a growing majority of Americans believe it's time to allow marriage for gay and lesbian couples.
When couples are committed, they ought to have, I think, the same sort of rights that everyone has.
Allowing them to live together with the protection of law, it seems to me, is the way we should be moving in this country.
Freedom means freedom for everyone.
That montage of prominent Republicans giving clout to what some see as a liberal agenda. But hold on, Laura Bush now asking to be removed from the ad, saying the group never got her permission. It just shows how sensitive this topic is. And although President Obama linked Selma and the Civil Rights March to gay rights in his inaugural speech, others are uncomfortable with that, like Birmingham City Councilwoman LaShonda Scales. According to the Birmingham News, Scales felt a display about lesbian families at the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute was inappropriate, saying, quote, homosexuality is a choice. I didn't choose to be black. I came here black. That's the difference. I know there's a difference between a choice and being black. Scales later wrote that her statement was taken out of context. She does not condone mistreatment of any group, and that to minimize one kind of struggle for another is not wise. But the question remains, are gay rights the same as civil rights? LZ Granderson, a CNN contributor, is joining us now because, LZ, you've written extensively on this issue. So I'll ask you the question, are gay rights the same as civil rights?
Absolutely. I think that people sometimes get it confused. I don't think that is equal to the civil rights movement. I think they're different movements. But this idea of what civil rights isn't something that was born in the USA. We've been discussing this, the modernized world has been discussing what exactly is civil rights for many, many years. Back in Britain, Catholics were fighting for their civil rights because they were discriminated against legally in Great Britain. So this notion of what is civil rights is not U.S., and it's not just tied to the civil rights movement.
Roland, do you agree?
I think the question is wrong. It's not a question, is gay rights civil rights? Is the gay rights movement the same as the black civil rights movement? That is the distinction. And so when you had African Americans in Jim Crow who couldn't vote, who couldn't stay in hotels, who couldn't stay in restaurants, but if you were white and gay, you could. Now, you look at folks with disabilities. That was determined as a portion taken from the Civil Rights Act. Civil rights, women's rights, when it came to Title IX. Title IX comes out of the Civil Rights Act. And so, again, a women's movement, a disabilities movement, a gay movement, a black movement, those are different movements, but the umbrella actually comes under civil rights. That's the distinction.
Some people, Amy, want to say gay rights are human rights, not civil rights. What do you say?
You know, Carol, the Tea Party movement, we don't get involved in the social issues. And if you look back to 2010, when we drove the messaging all about the economy, we won big. When we started going into these social issues in 2012 with the Republican Party driving the messaging, we lost. So we need to stick to what affects all of us, and that's the economy. But the 14th Amendment gives us all equal rights. And so when we're talking about gay marriage and these other issues, the federal government doesn't need to be put involved in that decision. That needs to, gay marriage and marriage in general needs to be something that is the church decides. The government shouldn't be involved in this. But at the end of the day, that's why the 10th Amendment is there, to put it back in states' rights. But, no one has a constitutional right to marriage. We're all created equal under the 14th Amendment.
Okay, so LZ, the beginning part of Amy's answer, you were smiling. Why, LZ?
Well, only because once the Tea Party got into power, we saw a significant spike in a number of pieces of legislation from the Republicans dealing with abortion, which by and large is a social issue. So I don't think necessarily that it's all about the money. I think there's definitely a tie-in with social issues as well. And as far as the statement she made about the church being the decider, there are people who don't go to church. There are people who don't believe in God, and they're still able to marry. So it's not just about the church and whether or not the church should grant you the ability to get married. The marriage is actually a legal bonding document that binds together possessions and binds together finances. It's a contract. And so that's not something that the church actually hands out. It's what the government. So yes, the government should be involved in that conversation. Okay,
I wish we could talk about this more, but sadly, we're out of time. So I want to thank my guests, Maria Cardona, Roland Martin, LZ Granderson,
Thanks.
Rich Galen, and Amy Kremer. Thanks so much for being with me.
Thanks, Carol. Thanks for having us.
Oh, thank you so much for being here. I do want to get to our Facebook friends to see what they think about this question. Are gay rights civil rights? This from Christopher. Marriage is a civil right. Just because the African American community had a civil rights movement doesn't mean that they now own the term civil rights. This from Diana. As an African American woman, I'm offended that they're considered the same. Please continue the conversation. Facebook.com/CarolCNN or tweet me @CarolCNN.